lots of our only exposure to Scottish history, I'm gonna start off with one that maybe you already know is coming, is the show Outlander. So sorry, Mom, but I've heard from Fiona-Jane that that's rubbish. So why is that rubbish?
Now, the thing I think I mentioned to you on email already that the problem with Outlander, the look of it and the other bits of it, they got perfectly right, but they got the history. It's complete fantasy because a lot of people outside of Scotland, and even when we were young at school, we were kind of taught, oh, it was English versus Scots. It was not. It was, there was so many elements and so many other outside elements influenced the whole thing. Basically, it was all about um, Charles Edward Stuart, who history knows as Bonnie Prince Charlie, wanting to get the Scottish throne and the English throne because the Stuarts had been king of both, going back to James VI, who became king of England, Scotland, and Ireland after Elizabeth I died. They were cousins, so he basically got into negotiations with her since she never married, and he became king of both. So we have the history of England from 1605 is also the history of Scotland because we had the same monarch. But the whole Outlander thing, of course, it was a romantic book. I remember when the books came out and I thought, oh, what a cute idea. But I know that fiction writers have always romanticised Culloden and there were so many different elements to it. It was not clear cut. It was not sort of as simple as they probably make it. And I don't watch the show, and that for that reason, my dad loves it, but he's quite happy to accept that it's fiction. But me as a historian, I can't let go of the fact like that never happened. So yeah, I find it hard when people mess with history. It's okay for me to do it if I do it with the reference to folklore, but when you say things, documented things, never happened, then yeah, now you're in dangerous ground. So I find it hard when people mess with history, and it's the same with things like Downton or Bridgerton. I was like, I'm not going to watch any of them because I know it's just going to be full of modern. A lot of programs now, they're full of modern morals, and if you were in the 19th or 18th or 18th century, 16th centuries, the morals were so different and people's worldview was so different. And I think some young writers today, they don't have that ability. We were trained in a university, in fact, even at school. My history teacher in high school said, oh, yeah, if you don't know, you ask, and you can't look at what happened in 1605 like you would do in 2022, and that's something I've always borne in mind, that you've got to get into the mindset of the people from that time. And when you're really young, you don't want to do that. You just want to say, oh, this is a sensible thing. And of course there's scope for doing that. There's scope, like, I love Shakespeare, there's seen many modern productions of it that have been great, but within those plays there's still that Elizabethan mindset. And of course, Shakespeare was writing for James VI as well. So I think that's it. It's the mindset, and that's why I'm fussy about it. And I've even had arguments with some of my actors when I wanted to use certain words in sketches. They're like, you can't use that. That's derogatory. It's like, well, that word would have been used at that time, and I'm not going to say the word, but
Yeah.
some folk would be extremely offended. And I actually asked a friend who was a Catholic who it probably would have offended, and she said, well, in historical context, yeah, but she says, I think I would be uncomfortable if I heard somebody using that. I was like, even on the stage? And see, that was the thing. So you've got to be careful sometimes, but again, history's history, and we've got all sorts of different views of it, but when archaeology backs you up as well, you think,
Yeah, there's always a weird line between like what's historically accurate and then how they felt about things in that day, and then whether or not that's acceptable now. And there's always this weird line where you kind of push the line. Like all the arts are like that, comedies like that, like movies and music and stuff. There's always that sort of line where the further you push it, some people like can go all the way and like they understand that that's what would have been happening at that point of history. But yeah, it's always a weird sort of dilemma to be in.